Author Roger Vaughn works out of a rustic writer's studio on the shore of Chesapeake Bay near the mouth of the Choptank River. He spent nearly 2 years here researching and writing the strenuous life of Harry Anderson, the biography of a former Commodore of the New York Yacht Club and arguably the most influential presence on the international sailing scene for the past 50 years. Roger recently caught up with Commodore Anderson at Mystic Seaport near Harry's home in Mystic, Connecticut. It was great fun for the author and his spry 93-year-old subject to wander aboard Mystic Seaport's sail training ship, the Joseph Conrad, and reimagine some of the early history of American seafaring. Harry learned to sail as a young boy at camp in the Adirondacks. By the time he was 20, he had sailed his first Bermuda race, traveled the coast of Labrador on a scientific expedition, and raced 12-meter sloops on Long Island Sound. Roger also sailed competitively his whole life, was editor of the acclaimed Yacht magazine, and has written extensively on the sport. After their tour, the two sailing enthusiasts walked back along the waterfront to the G.W. Blunt White Building and sat down in the Olin Stevens reading room to reminisce about their recently published book.
Well, Harry, this is it.
Oh my golly.
We did it. Yeah.
Wow.
I think it took almost 2 years,
And some traveling.
and quite a bit of traveling. Yeah, we went to all of your haunts.
That's true. They went down to Coconut Grove, Miami to my school.
Yeah,
Up in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia.
and don't forget New York, the New York Yacht Club. We went to the Union Club, Jekyll Island,
Jekyll Island too.
Yeah.
All that past history.
which was terrific. Yeah, Jekyll's a beautiful place.
Do you usually travel that much with your subject?
Yeah, I like to because I like to see the person in his element. And you can read about it, you can look at the pictures, but there's no substitute for actually being there and seeing how you're received and how you handle the situation and so forth. So yeah, I think it's really important. And the traveling was very interesting, and I think it all started when after the first 25 minutes that we ever met, you handed me the key to your apartment and said,
right.
"I'm not going to be here next week. Why don't you come up and here are all the files?" And that was daunting, I think. You know, for me, to walk into your office and see all those rolling files full of material. But it was really good because there was not only all the research, but then there was, I don't know, we must have spent 40, 50 hours talking.
That's true.
And then there were 30 or 40 other people that I talked to. Always it's difficult, for someone in your position as the subject to be so forthcoming about your life. And how was that experience for you? Was that all right?
Yeah, that's okay, but because my real apprehension was what my friends are going to say to you.
Well, as it turned out, they were all pretty complimentary.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah. We worked on this, Harry, for almost 2 years.
Right.
And I never asked you this question.
Uh-oh.
But I wanted to know, why did you want this book done?
Well, I always milled around with the idea, what am I going to do with all this material? Because I kept all those logs of trips,
Right.
business or whatever it was. And,
America's Cup.
you know, and didn't want it to go to waste.
Are you happy with the way it turned out?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Good. Is it all true, Harry?
Oh, Of course, the great accomplishment was getting Prince Philip to do the introductory letter.
I know. That's a pretty good story. Whenever you do a book, whenever I do a book, I always imagine if I could have anybody in the world write the foreword, who would it be? Because I think you should designate that person and see if you can get him. You know, and when it became evident that you knew Prince Philip through the Puna Yacht Club, that just stuck in my head. And remember, I said to you, Harry, do you think we could get Prince Philip to write the foreword? And you said yes. I ended up calling it The Strenuous Life of Harry Anderson. How do you react to that? Do you think your life has been a strenuous life?
And some of us reacted to that title as not really telling anyone what it was all about.
Yeah, but the word strenuous it means what it means.
Yeah, but I think it gets its connotation out of Teddy Roosevelt's speech.
Right. You sort of have to read the book to find out about it. But I think when you read the book, you agree.
Well, yeah, I know it's been a strenuous life, juggling too many apples at the same time.
But you still are, really, aren't you?
Well, that's true.
Not everybody leads a strenuous life. Why do you think you were selected?
That's a good question. It's probably a number of too many interests, collateral, sports and academic, and of course, some of my ancestors led a pretty strenuous life too.
So you're really carrying on a tradition in a way, aren't you?
Well, I guess so.
Yeah. When did you feel that tradition?
Well, because, we led an active life on the weekends. We go horseback riding before lunch, play tennis in the morning, go sailboat racing in the afternoon, and then the Saturday night dance at the club. I mean, people kept active in those days.
Remember that story about when you went for your interview at Adirondack School? You canoed
Yeah,
like
canoed.
4.5 hours or so.
Mhm. 2 canoes with the family.
Yeah. Right, and you were just 12 or so at that
Yeah,
time.
right.
That's a lot to ask for a 12-year-old, isn't it? Do you think that whole thing toughened you up?
Oh, no doubt, no doubt.
Yeah.
People today don't know how to paddle a canoe or chop a log and some of the basics.
The Adirondacks were important in teaching you a lot of that sort of thing, right?
Well, that's true because, being up there at camp, at the family camp in summer, and then being at the Adirondack, Florida school, fall and spring.
Right.
Spent a lot of time in the Adirondacks, outdoors, fishing.
Would you say there's a big change in how active people are from when you grew up to today?
Well, yeah, I think so because as you mentioned earlier, they're all on the boob tube, and instead of arguing with each other or exercising or having interpersonal change.
One of the aspects of the strenuous life is to promote the strenuous life, I think. One of the things this book does is it through you, through how you have done it, it promotes the idea of a strenuous life. You go back to Teddy Roosevelt's speech, and that's what he was doing. He was promoting a strenuous life, saying this is the way to advance the country, to go out and live a strenuous life. And he was encouraging people to do it. You're a proponent of the strenuous life, I think, aren't you?
Well, that's true. I mean, got to keep busy.
Yeah. It actually says in the book, it talks about how you were, from the beginning, a really big note taker. You always wrote things down. Do you remember why that got started? Why you started doing that?
Well, of course, you go sailing and you keep a log, and then you always add bits of facts and background in the log. And then, it's traveled around the world for one reason or another, either as a vice president of the International Racing Union or going to different navies in connection with the tall ships. So I always kept a log of those details.
Right, but this started early, didn't it? I mean,
well, it started at prep school. I remember we used to keep a log of our weekend cruises.
So it really was from log keeping that got into note keeping and so forth. In the book, I called you the first blogger.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, there's millions of people have blogs now, but you did it with pencil and paper or typewriter and mimeograph machine and envelopes and stamps. And I think if it wasn't for the voluminous amounts of memos and stories and pieces that you'd written, we wouldn't have this book.